Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Stash Report from the Stash Project. This is going to be our July 2025 model kit release video. For folks that are new here, we do these beginning every month. Or something like that. And this one again for July of 2025. So we have 24 items on the docket this morning, and for once, at least since the tariff nonsense got started, we actually have more domestic kits than we do import kits. Literally splits 14 to 10 in favor of the domestic. So we're going to spend a little bit of time in the United States this morning. Hopefully, that'll make those of you who want to purchase those type of kits amused, if nothing else. So, on the U.S. side of things, we have kits from Round 2, as well as Mobius and Salvino's JR. Overseas, it's just Fujimi and Hasegawa. So starting here in the U.S., let's take a look at Revell, shall we? So Revell's got 3 reissues on the docket here, and they are pretty much just straight reissues. None of these actually have any new parts to them, except this one has a new die cast added to it, and it is a reissue of the 1991 Chevrolet S10 Lowrider, part of the Big and Little series. It'll be very interesting to see if this actually becomes a series, or if this becomes a one and done misery. Only because the price point of this kit is substantially more than any other Revell kit. Something to the tune of about $25 more than any other Revell kit, which seems like an awful lot of money to spend for a 1/64 scale diecast. Now, on the other hand, the diecast does come with a posable bed and positionable axles, so it's not just like a Hot Wheels car. It's actually kind of a nice 1/64 diecast. And if you price out a high-end 1/64 scale diecast, you're going to pay that kind of money for it, actually. If you start looking at GT World and all of the other companies that are above and beyond your Matchbox and Hot Wheels, they get kind of pricey pretty quick. And like I said, this one has some doodads and ding-dongs to it that a regular Hot Wheels wouldn't have. The kit itself, well, last time we saw it out was 1999. It appears that there are some of the not the Lowrider, but the Wave Rider parts in it, which was a weird sort of billet custom version that was done in 1994, the year after this kit was originally released as a factory stock S10. This kit has its own suspension components, the Lowrider components, so it's kind of, sort of factory stock. Anybody who bought this kit back in 1993, now I realize that's going back quite a while, knows that this kit, when it was originally released in 1993, had a stock 2-wheel drive chassis underneath of it. It has the big engine, the 4.3 big engine, but that was the biggest engine you could get in S10, was the 4.3 V6, and it came with a just factory stock 2-wheel drive suspension. And then somewhere in the intervening years between the last time it was released as a semi-stock vehicle, which would be the Wave Rider kit in 1994, and when it was released again in 2020, the stock 2-wheel drive suspension has evaporated. No one knows where the tooling insert is for it anymore. It's been searched for, it's been looked for, but nobody knows where it went. Nobody can really say what happened to it. That's why the 2020 reissue that had the stock quote-unquote S10 in it had the all-wheel drive suspension out of the Cyclone in it. Because, well, that's the only way to release it, is either as this Lowrider or as an all-wheel drive version. So, do you want to pay $50+ for this? I guess that's the ultimate question. That's probably what an original one will cost you at this point, so it's not like you're going to be saving any money by going to eBay necessarily. So I guess grin and bear it if you're interested in the subject matter. I mean, it is what it is in that sense. You can gripe about it if you want to, if it'll make you feel better, but it costs what it costs, and that's what it costs. So I know the Lowrider community was excited to get it back to a certain extent. I don't know how excited they are anymore now that it's been released at that price point. But be that as it may, it's out there and available. Next up, we have a reissue of the 1985 Pontiac Fiero GT. Several people point out the box art for this looks very much like the 1984 Indianapolis 500 pace car, including the air snorkel on the roof and the color scheme itself. Now, there are no decals. Listen carefully. There are no decals to do that. This is just sort of a homage to it in the sense of the color scheme and the way it's set up. It is a 1985 Pontiac Fiero. This kit was released in 1985 by Monogram. It was last seen in 2004 in a sort of carbon copy retro release, if you will. It was released in the exact same box art as the original 1985 kit. And so we got some new box art here in 2025. Also a new set of decals in here, and it's molded in white. Both of those previous releases were molded in that bright red that Primer doesn't like the cover. And if you're into Fieros, it's been a really long time since a Fiero kit has been on the market. 21 years, as a matter of fact. So, this is a pretty decent kit. It's a Monogram kit from the 1980s. That means certain things will be simplified here and there. But these were really decent model kits for what they were. Monogram was sort of the, was the off scale, right? Because it was 1/24 scale. The off scale company that made sort of simplified kits. Parts counts were usually under 90, but they went together well. That was the thing the Monogram had going for it. Pretty much its entire run of its existence was the kits were well engineered and actually went together, which you can't always say about especially vintage Revell kits. Now, vintage Revell kits can, of course, be built. We're not going to go down that road, but they don't require, the Monogram kits, I should say, don't require that nearly as much finesse as some of those old Revell kits do. And speaking of Monogram kits, this also owned a venerable old Monogram kit, the 1964 GTO. It's a 2-in-1 technically. You build it factory stock. You build it as sort of a street machine drag car. This also was originally released in 1985. It was last out in 2011 in one of the Monogram classic cruiser boxes, you may recall. But again, you may not. It was 14 years ago. New set of decals here and molded in white as well. So, I had one of these in the Monogram's selected subject program that was basically a repop of it in the mid 1990s box art. I got it in like the early 2000s, and it was again molded in that god awful red that Monogram used back then. And I sold it a while ago because I was just never going to build it. I didn't feel like dealing with it, and I'm kind of tempted to buy another one of these because it's new set of decals. And there's Redline tire decals, which is a nice little touch, and gauges and stuff like that. The release that I had prior to this basically had a license plate and like a GTO badge, and that was it. So, well, I probably won't buy this because the last thing I need is another model kit that I might get to someday. I do appreciate that this, sort of been, tweaked a little bit in the decal sense at least, and the color it's molded in sense that it's, white. And you can paint it whatever color you want to, and you don't have to worry about it. Should be noted that the GTO has chrome parts. The S10 has chrome parts, but the Fiero, for whatever reason, does not. That's not the biggest thing in the world because the Fiero's wheels weren't really chrome. They were like a matte aluminum. But some people have pointed out the fact that, it was the wheels of the Fiero are actually like painted black rather than being just a shadow where the black accents are on the wheels. And it was easier, quote unquote, to paint like the whole wheel black and then, wipe off the black off the chrome to make that shadow effect, and then like dull coat the wheel and have to do it that way. This one with no chrome, you're gonna have to literally paint both the black and the silver. I don't think that's really that big of a deal to somebody who's reasonably competent and thinks it through. But if that's a factor, I want to also point that out so that it is mentioned as we go. So let's go over to Mobius. Mobius got a bunch of stuff here, and it's all reissues, and it's some stuff that's kind of interesting if you weren't following along with it when it happened. So there are two straight Mobius releases this month. And first up, you have the 1970 Ford F-350 ramp truck. Now, maybe a ramp truck, that sounds familiar. Yeah, they did one as a 1967 back in 2022. This is a reissue of it. You remember the original one was a Model King release. This is just a straight Mobius rebox. We talked about it at the time, and refresh your memory every now and then. Anytime there's a Model King release of something, at some point in the future, Mobius will release it under their own packaging in some form or fashion. Usually, as a slightly different year or slightly different version. There were Model King NASCAR versions of the Hudson and the Chrysler 300, and then there were Mobius versions. They were different liveries, but they were effectively the same kit. Same principle here. This is a straight reissue, other than the fact that it includes the trim pieces, the grill and things like that, to convert this to a 1970 instead of a 1967. If you were on board with this kit originally and you got a bunch of warp parts with it, that was a problem that the 67 had when it was originally done. It should be noted, and it really wasn't brought to anyone's attention at the time necessarily, that those parts were replaced back then by Mobius. They were very good about that 3 years ago, that if there was a huge QC issue with the kits. They just were bad. Mine was a little warped, not as nearly as bad as some people's were. I straightened my parts out. I did not ask for replacements. But some people had stuff that was like twisted like a Dorito, and it wasn't going to be usable, would not be buildable in really any sense, and they did go through, like I said, and replace those kits. So props to Mobius for that. And if you were thinking, oh, I heard those are all warped, I'm not going to get one, understand that production problem was fixed 3 years ago back then, and it should not, quote unquote, should not be an issue. Now, is the hood warped? Probably, because all the hoods in all the F series are warped, but as far as the bed of this goes, it should be okay. The other reissue from Mobius directly is this 65 Mercury Comet BFX. So the 65 Mercury was tooled up in 2016, had several reissues since then as drag cars, but it has not been released in this BFX trim. The BFX trim gets you a new small block Ford and the associated BFX drag racing parts. A lot of it carries over from both the stock kit and the AFX kit, as far as like the tires and things like that. This obviously has a new set of decals included for this specific car. This is a replica of a real one. And if you want to see a review of this, and you haven't seen a review of this, our good buddy Jason over Blue Ox Model Shop did an unboxing of it, showing you what the exact new parts were. So I recommend going and digging through his channel for that. If you're interested in seeing that, up close. All of this was tooled up back in 2016. It just has taken till now to get this version out with this engine. I've seen some things about like a newly tooled engine. Well, newly included engine. Tooling, no. Tooling done 9 years ago, included new, that, yes. The other kits out of Mobius are from Galaxy Limited. Now, if you're new to the hobby, aka you've come back since COVID, you don't know anything about Galaxy Limited unless maybe you've seen one at a hobby show, or you have friends in the hobby who've discussed this in the past, or something of that nature. Because Galaxy Limited, unfortunately, hasn't existed since COVID, or shortly after COVID. Gary Schmidt, who used to be the publisher of Scale Auto Enthusiast, back when it had the Enthusiast attached to it, after he sold the magazine to Kalmbach Publishing, started Galaxy Limited. They produced a wide variety of trailers. If you've ever seen like the three axle like gooseneck trailers and the tow behinds, they came in a number of sizes. The biggest one was 38 feet, and they came in a variety of sizes down to like 18 or 22 feet, I think it was, like a dual axle tow behind. And then they also did a series of 1947 Chevrolets. Really, technically, they're 46 through 48 Chevrolets because they come with grills and trim to do all three of those years. Little consternation about the grill shape and things like that. It's not quite as 3D as it should be. But, the tooling was done back in 1998, and, it's not going to get fixed now. There are 3 kits in this series. There is a Fleetmaster Aero Sedan, there is a sedan delivery, and there is a coupe. The Aero Sedan and the sedan delivery were tooled up back in 1998. They were sold, ran out, and eventually in 2016 there was a limited reissue of both kits, and the Aero Sedan got a set of parts added to it, which, as you look at the box art for it here, is that Woody scheme on the side. You do not have to put those wood panels on there. You can build it sort of like the way the custom is, with it being clean and not having those wood panels installed if you so desire it. But those parts were added in 2016. The sedan delivery also was released there, and this one has on the box art pictures of the 3 different grills that are included in the kit to do the 3 different years of the Chevys. All of these kits have them in it. And then lastly, in 2016, this was a modified reissue because it runs on the running gear and the drivetrain, and all of the parts, right, are the same underneath it. It has a new body, new glass, and new interior to be a coupe. This was a one and done. Unfortunately, that's that Gary passed away several years ago. And there was never a rerun of this. The kit sold out, so it was great for him. All the money he invested in it, he got a return on his investment with the fact that the kit sold out. However, that meant it was only available for a few months back in 2016, and it hasn't been seen since then. So what happened here with Mobius is that they worked with Gary Schmidt's widow, and they have acquired the tooling for these kits. So other than doing new box art, which was basically a repop of the box art that was already done for these by Galaxy Limited, and had already been approved by GM, obviously that makes it a lot easier since you're just resubmitting it with your name on it rather than drawing all new things, and then putting their names on the instruction sheets and things like that. These are run as they were when they were done. This tooling, and I'm sure Gary, if he was around, could explain why he made the decision what he did, are in South Korea. I believe these kits are run by Academy as far as who produces them in the end, and they may have been tooled by Academy back then as well. But be that as it may, they're kits that haven't been available for a good 5 to 7 years at least, if not longer. Like I said, the coupe sold out and was never restocked. And so, those are back out there and available for you. They're running about $42-ish, which is, probably about $5 to $7 more than a regular Mobius kit would cost you, other than that Ram truck, because it would be about the same price as the Ram truck. But these were premium kits price-wise when they were made. Back in 1998, these kits were almost $20, which was a, just unspeakable amount of money in 1998 when model kits were basically like $13. And the coupe was about $40 when it was sold originally. So really not that much of an increase, but then nothing's been done to it. Mobius has addressed the fact that there are no plans to do anything to the tooling, like fix the grills or anything else. They're in situ, they're in South Korea, they're going to stay in South Korea, and they're just pouring plastic through the molds and releasing them again, which, all in all, I think that's a pretty good deal for everyone involved. So happy to have those back out. I don't need any of them per se because I have them all, but for people who don't know what those are, have never seen them, they're really nice kits. They're very well detailed, and if you like the subject matter, I'd recommend purchasing one. They're very, very easy to find. They're everywhere Mobius stocks kits. They're not like a limited special release or anything like that. They're just straight line kits that they're doing, and every hobby shop or online retailer that stocks Mobius should have them available. Now let's go over to Salvino's JR. We've got 2 NASCAR and 2 IndyCar. Like I said, just a bumper crop of domestic kits here. First up, on the classic kit side of things, you have this Junior Johnson Racing 1984 Monte Carlo, make number 11 or 12. If you look at this and you think to yourself, that looks pretty familiar. Didn't we talk about this? Yes, last year, as a matter of fact, we did. They released this exact same kit back then, except, but this has a flat nose included in it. Apparently, there is one race that Darrell Waltrip ran the number 11. I believe it was at the old Nashville track with the flat nose on it, as opposed to the Aero SS nose. And so the flat nose is included here, but otherwise, this is the same kit as it was last year. It's the exact same sheet of decals as the other 1984 Monte Carlo kit had, because that one was build one or the other as well. I think it's a little subjective to have both on the box art as real model kits like this, because it seems to imply that, that would be 2 kits in this box, but there is only one. You can only build one. And I do find it amusing, it must have slid out the door, that the Budweiser livery here is an 18 years or older. So apparently the drinking age just dropped, because usually the alcohol ones have to have a 21 years or older box art. Anyway, that's out. And then this kit is a 2025 Chevrolet ZL1. We don't call them Camaros anymore for whatever reason. And this is Kyle Larson's car from the Coca-Cola 600. You'll see why in a second. But yeah, it's another Kyle Larson car. I know Kyle Larson sells a lot of kits for them, but it does get a little bit tedious when it's a whole bunch of Camaros and they're pretty much all from Hendrix. That's their biggest customer and their biggest licensee, and I totally understand that. But at the same time, it's like, how many 5s and 24s and whatnot do you need? This one has a lot of orange accents to it that normally are not on the car, because they're also releasing the Kyle Larson Indy car, the car that he ran at the 2025 rather, Indianapolis 500. So this is an Aero McLaren Chevrolet powered car. These are 1/20th scale, as you may recall, and other than the new decal scheme for Kyle Larson's car here, there's nothing new about this. But if you look at it, you can see, how each of the kits reflect on each other livery wise, right? This one is sort of a, open wheeled, much swoopier version of Kyle Larson's Camaro in terms of the colors and the orange accents and all that thing. The orange accents obviously there because of McLaren. And then we also have, I'm going to butcher this name, but I'm going to go for it anyway. This is Alex Palou. I believe that's how you pronounce that. His DHL sponsor car that was the 2025 Indy 500 winner. So this is a Honda powered car. If you're not into your modern Indy car, these are spec chassis, so they're going to both look the same because they effectively are the same. The only difference between the two cars are the power plants. And, if you collect this sort of thing, they did the 2024 Indy 500 winner for Joseph Newgarden earlier this year. So this is the 2025 car. Obviously, states that on the box art, being redundant from the redundancy department. But, if you're trying to collect them, you can now build the 2023, 2024, and 2025 Indy 500 winners. So that's kind of neat. Kind of a little bit of a different twist on what Salvino's normally does. And there should be maybe a couple more Indy cars for the end of the year. It all depends on, licensing and production and things like that. But if you're into the open wheel and you're okay with them being 1/20th scale, there's a lot of people that still complain they're not 1/24th or 1/25th scale, which is a very, very small thing when you're talking about open wheel cars. Yes, they'll fit in your collection better scale-wise. I understand that, but the scale of open wheel, blame Tamiya if you want to, is 1/20th scale. Yes, I know, Hasegawa and Revell of Germany did 1/24th scale F1 cars and Foreman 3000 cars, but that was 30 years ago, and we're sort of kind of one-offs. Revell is really reissuing a couple of them every now and then, but, it's just, they have tooling laying around. What are they going to do? And just not use it? So, I see both sides of that argument, but for a new tool, making it in 1/20 scale made sense back when it was new a year and a half ago. Hey! Welcome from the editing suite. It's Veterans Day. Thank you, if you serve this country. And I'm going through this. Hopefully I'll have it uploaded today as well. And I realized as I'm listening to it, I recorded this months ago, if you can't figure that out. And I mentioned, like, oh, round 2 and this, that, and the other thing. And I didn't mention Revell. We started off with Revell. And we got to this point in the video. I realized that I had not actually done the round 2 kits as part of the video. So, yeah. Every now and then I'll do that and I'll miss a kit. And it's like, whatever. I'll mention it next month. It's usually an import kit, and honestly, let's face it, unless you are very close friends with me and I'm, talking to you a lot, like on a daily basis about what kits come out, like week to week, you probably wouldn't even know that the import kit is in the wrong month. But this one is kind of a little bit of a problem because A, the kits are out for almost 5 months at this point, and B, I mentioned them that there were around 2 kits, and then I don't mention them in the video. So here we are, to mention those round 2 kits. So there's 2 of them, real quick. First up, you have the 1966 Ford Mustang Shelby. I think this is a GT 350. Yep. And so what this kit is you may recall, I believe it was towards the end of last year, they retooled the original 66 Ford Mustang Fastback kit by cloning an original, and they released that as a 66 Mustang, as just sort of a regular kit. It has, the older chassis because of the era of the kit was tooled up, in 1966. And so this kit has all new Shelby parts added to that original body, and then a new set of decals, a new set of Goodyear Blue Streak tires included as well. So I've seen some people say, well, these wheels were included with other things and this, that, and the other thing. And all that is true. These wheels were available in other AMT kits. However, these are tooled specifically for this one, which, again, while it's not a new release in the sense of being holy crap, it's brand new, because it does ride all of the newly tooled body from a original 66 kit that the other kit had. There are new parts in this kit. And so it is a new kit. You could not buy a Shelby GT350 Mustang kit unless you want to go back and buy one that was done back in 1966. So now you can, and it's brand new-ish. Again, remember, chassis, interior, gonna be vintage. Body is newly tooled. In this case, like I said, the body's not newly tooled. They're just new parts added to the newly tooled body. I think that makes sense. The other kit is this. It's a 68 El Camino Street Machine. It's a part of the Custom Cruisers series. This kit goes back to last being available in, it looks like around 2005. There was a run of it done for Walmart. The kit itself was a B-side to the new tool 68 El Camino that's been done a number of times with, most recently it had, I think, well, it might not be most recently, but it came with the Pinewood, or the, not Pinewood Derby, but the Soapbox Derby car a little while ago. I think it's had one release since then, very, very recently. I should have looked that up on ScaleMates. But at any rate, you've seen the kit come out a couple of times recently. It was tooled up as a brand new tool back in 1998. The flip side came out in 1999. ScaleMates, like I said, the one that's on there says 2005. I believe that's just a reissue, again, done for Walmart. It's not when the kit was released. But what's interesting about this, and why it's a little bit different, and you might want to consider purchasing one, is that it has a set of mini tubs built into the chassis for this. So this is like a street machine that has a kind of a pro streety. It's not huge, it's not big, it's not like pro street tires, right? But it is definitely bigger tires and a tubbed rear end that is a little bit different than, obviously, a stock 68 El Camino. And you may not have ever seen this kit. Again, we mentioned at the very beginning of this, if you weren't in the hobby when it came out and you haven't seen one laying around at a show since you've come back, you may not know this kit exists, because it was a one run right at the end of the Ertl era of AMT Ertl, this right as the company was being sold to Racing Champions. Racing Champions, I think, again, kicked it out one time in the mid-2000s as a reissue, and that's it. This kit has not seen the light of day in this format since then. It has custom wheels, custom engine parts, and a few things. If you've dealt with any of the videos we've done about the custom cruisers, they're not wildly different kits. They're not 100 new pieces, and oh my god, it's 10 new pieces that mildly change it. But this one is a little more interesting for the fact, again, that it has that mini tubbed rear end, which was something that most of these custom cruisers didn't do, big transitions like that. So it might be something you were interested in. Anyway, that covers those 2 round 2 kits, and now back to your scheduled trip overseas. So that takes us overseas. So let's go over to Fujimi, where we're going to have just a boatload of reissues. And there's one semi-new tool in all of this. First up, you have the GTW Wing, version of the Mazda FD3 SRX7 in its Mazda Speed A-Spec version. So, Fujimi does an A-Spec version of the 4th Gen RX-7, and this has 2 big goofy wings included with it. That's all you need to know. I'd say that Fujimi's RX-7 is probably on par with Aoshima's in terms of overall. They're both curbside. They both have everything molded into the chassis and things like that. It was a period tooling by Fujimi. Obviously, it can't be an old motorized kit because it isn't that old. But overall, if you want one with an engine in it, you have to try to track down the what is they call that? I can't see it in my boxes. My Mazda boxes are covered up with resin boxes. But there is a black box art version of this generation Mazda RX-7 by Tamiya that had a rotary engine in it. It's the only one that does. So, if you want that, you're going to have to track down an out of production Tamiya kit. So, that's there. This is a Mitsubishi Evo Lancer 8 in the Mountain King Touring King thing. Box art. So this has a new easy alignment system underneath of it, which we've talked about with, I believe, the Evo 7 last month or a couple months ago, where this has a more correct, if you will, later production Lancer chassis, because all of these kits have always had the chassis under it from the Evo 3 until they tooled up this new chassis for the later ones. Everything above the chassis, the interior, and the body are the same as they've always been as far as this kit goes, which came out in the mid-2000s, so it's not terribly old, but I mean, it's not like they didn't tool anything else other than the chassis, which allows you to pose it and raise and lower the suspension height, things like that. But overall, it's it's a Fujimi static model. It's a $20 model, and it's the only Evo 8 there is, so you're kind of on the hook for that, whether you will like it or not. Next up in their Easy Kit line, you have I almost called it a GMC Jimny. A Suzuki Jimny Sierra. There's too many Jimny Sierra. There's too many GMC names involved there. I know that's a Jimny, not a Jimny, but still. The Jimny Sierra is an export version of this truck. It has fender flares and bigger wheels. That pushes the width out past the tax regulations to make this a K car anymore. They do sell a Jimny, which I believe is a JB64. This is a JB74 that doesn't have the fender flares and has a smaller engine and is a K car. There are some of those coming in the coming months as well, but the export model is what we get first. It is molded in the forest green color that you see on the box art, and unfortunately does not have any decals. It just has Mylar stickers. So the wait begins for hopefully one molded in a white or blank color that will include some water slide decals for the emblems and dashboard and things like that, because I would like to buy the export version of this. I have a couple of Jimnys. Obviously the Hasegawa did the 90s series, and Fujimi also did in the Snap Tight Easy Kit line the previous one that ran from like the late 90s through 2018. This is the current model Jimny as far as that goes. The start that came out in 2018 continues to this day. So this is the new one, if you will. So I would like the new one. I just would not like to deal with the Mylar stickers. And then we have this, which is a Nissan Sil 80, which is a 180SX with the front clip of a Nissan S13 Silvia. I've actually seen a couple of these locally. There's a couple of guys here locally who would be a 240SX at that point and slap the front end off of a S13 Silvia, which obviously they've got out of Japan somehow. This has the easy alignment system under it as well, which is the chassis for the 180SX that was done earlier last year. And, it's a popular drifting car, very popular drifting car, and, kind of a play on words there with the Silvia 80, the Sil 80. And then you have this in the same, all these touring, Mountain King touring cars, right? This is the Honda CRX SI Cyber Sports Edition. Very basic kit, very simple. It does have the easy alignment system under it, so it has a new chassis underneath of it, which might improve it a little bit. And it's a like $10 kit. It does have left-hand drive, so that's pretty cool. But overall, you're not, it's not a lot going on with this CRX. It is a slightly newer CRX than the one that Tamiya did, which was like a very early model CRX, so they're kind of different in that way if you want to have a series of CRXs, because they also did the CRX Del Sol, which was like the one after this. So you could have a bunch of little Econo box Hondas from Fujimi if you so desired. The biggest selling point to this kit to me is it has a whole boatload of Japanese tuner parts decals. Endless Bride, Mugen, that's just the ones you can see on the box art. There's a whole decal sheet of nothing but like tuner stickers, which is pretty neat to have because you can obviously, other than the Mugen one, use them on anything else that you'd want to. And that will take us over to Hasegawa to round out the month. Again, just some reissues here. First up, you have the 1999 Mini 40th Anniversary Limited. I was talking about this on the podcast, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, because this was part of the Shizuoka Hobby Show kits. And so that would have been done in April. And so the big shtick here was the 40th anniversary, and it has the 40th anniversary logo for the hood ornament, or the hood placard. Really, it's not an ornament; it's flat. And I was like, I talked about it, and I was like, that seems weird because I swear that they've done this before. So there's 2 40th anniversary limited versions. They did in their late Mark 10 version of the Mini. They did a regular Mini, which is what this is, and they did a sports cup, I think is what it's called, which has a bigger set of fender flares and a different front grill treatment and things like that. And they did a 40th anniversary one of that last year. So this is the other one. So they've done 40th anniversary versions of both. So I mean, you got to really, really appreciate the 40th anniversary Mini to want to have them both. But yeah, so this is not the same as the previous 40th anniversary. This is the standard Mini 40th anniversary version, if that makes sense. Then you have this, the 1973 Toyota Celica Liftback 1600 ST. You may recall that this was done as a semi-new kit last spring. Has the new body and new interior for the liftback. This was previously only a coupe version from 1994 when it was tooled all the way up till last year. And they've decided to, and I give them all the thumbs up in the world for the liftback body, because that was kind of something that was missing out of the lineup, and it never really made sense why they didn't do one back then. I'm sure it made sense to somebody somewhere. This has new wheels, so the steel wheels you see in the box art are new, and then some ST logos, which is like the trim level right below the GT. And otherwise, the kit carries over from its previous version. This is a 1977 Isuzu 117 Coupe. Gotta pronounce it that way. There's a tilde over the E. Late version, which would be a very, very late version. This is one of the last versions of the Isuzu 117 that was made. This has a new set of wheels in it. They're kind of cool because they say 117 Coupe. Engraved. It would have been machined in real life, right? But carved into the wheels, and they are, like I said, they're a different set of wheels. And you get the sort of quasi-screaming chicken thing for the hood there in the decals. But otherwise, all of the rest of the parts of this kit carry over from previous versions. It does have a pretty nifty red plaid interior decal set as well, if that sort of thing moves you. And then we have this, the Subaru Impreza, the Memorial Bottega 1993. So this is done in Italy. It is a side-by-side autocross, for lack of a better term. It's on dirt, and it is a track that sort of crosses itself. So this is very easily findable on YouTube. Just YouTube 1993 Memorial Bottega, and you can see the final race, which is what this car represents here. And the racetrack has like an over and under, and you start on the left side, you go over, you do a lap, you come back around, you're on the right side, and you do the under on the second lap. It's kind of interesting in that. I believe it was a 3-lap race. This is Colin McRae's car. He won this little event. It was just like all of the WRC guys ran in this, and then the final was him versus one of the Mitsubishi drivers. I can't remember who exactly, and I don't want to say the wrong person, but it was a Mitsubishi driver. And at any rate, he won, and so this is the model kit of that. You can also build the other version that ran, because these were obviously the 555 tobacco teams, except all that livery is pulled off of it for this one-off race. And lastly, we have the 1983 New Zealand Rally 240 RS Nissan. So, this is the best that this car ever finished. This one on the box art. Timo Solomon finished second in this rally, and it is the highest finishing position that this vehicle platform, the 240 RS, ever received in any rally it ever ran on the international level. I think there may be a case where on a local, after this car was, being privateered. It may have won a rally somewhere along the ways, but as far as the actual WRC at the time, second place finish was the highest it's ever got. This does have new wheels added to it to help convert the existing rally kit to this specific version. This is also the same version that B-Max did way back when they brought their version of this kit out back in the day. It's probably about 5 years ago at this point. And yeah, I guess it'd be kind of interesting to compare the two, to sit down and see, you know, how much better the Hasegawa kit is compared to the existing B-Max kit. I would assume that the Hasegawa kit would be more detailed from comparing like the AE92 Toyota 11s. Like the B-Max 11 is like 70 parts and the Hasegawa 11 is like 115 parts. So there's like 40 extra parts in that somehow. And obviously things that are molded into the B-Max kit are separate parts than the Hasegawa kit. And the Hasegawa's just general chassis and everything like that is broken up into more parts and pieces as far as the drivetrain suspension goes. But I don't know. It's always weird when a model kit does, when a model company does something that was done not terribly long ago by another company. Hasegawa and the folks at B-Max Nunu have, well, it's Hasegawa redoing Nunu kits or B-Max kits, depending on which one we will talk about, because the Nunu kits, even though B-Max and Nunu sometimes take forever to release anything, have gotten all of the copied kits to market first. So they have not been copying Hasegawa. It's the other way around. Now, I know the argument there is that Nunu B-Max is an Asian audience in general and an international audience more broadly, and Hasegawa is obviously catering to a Japanese audience first, and if these happen to get out to other places, cool, but it's not really their intent necessarily. So it's two different markets as far as the companies are concerned, but at the same time, copying something that's already been done seems a little silly. Hasegawa is doing that right now with the Civics, right? The EF9 Civic that was the Idemitsu motion car is copying a B-Max kit that was done 7 years ago at this point, and the upcoming EF3 version is copying also another version of a B-Max Nunu kit that's already been done. And I understand that those are different kits and different markets, and as far as the actual cars themselves go, they're the most popular version of those race cars that were run, so doing the most popular version makes sense. I, as a hoarder, would prefer them do things that have not been done before so that I could justify buying it. I can't justify buying this when I already have this in another company's box with PE and things like that. So that is sort of what it is in that sense, but it's cool nonetheless to see them doing things, right? The Hasegawa could completely and totally stop doing cars tomorrow, go back to doing airplanes, and we'd all be sitting here going, what happened? No. We said one thing too many. Because if you don't know, there's a lot of plane guys that are very upset with Hasegawa for the last 6 years, 8 years, that they've been on this car kick. We have been incredibly lucky as automotive modelers to be getting all of these great kits from Hasegawa, because the Hasegawa hadn't done really a lot of car kits since the mid and late 1990s. A lot of reissues, but not a lot of new things. There were some new Ferraris here and there, but there wasn't a lot of just rank and file. Every year you're getting 3 new tools and 82 versions of the existing tools kind of thing that they've been on now. That was done for airplanes in 1/48th and 1/72nd scale. And they have just been reissuing airplanes over and over and over again with different decal sheets included. They haven't done anything new. And it's kind of driving the airplane guys crazy. And I'm willing to ride this as long as it wants to. So Hasegawa, you make as many copies of whatever you want to. I personally won't buy one, but, if you sell them and it funds the next thing, cool. Cool. I am all for it. So, guys, that wraps up this month. Now you know what you're buying in the month of July. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys on the other side.